So it's been a couple months since I did my video about the Amiet S6, which honestly, in many ways, was a really cool bike, but it was kind of just poorly executed and, overall, a very rough bike. And I kept trying to make it work, but the last straw for me was that eventually one of the non-slip washers on the front hub, gave out, and it slipped, and inevitably that messed up the connection to the front motor. And because the rear motor was always kind of inadequate on that thing to begin with, just being on a single motor for a while really showed me that it was just a flawed bike. So rather than taking it to a shop and having them mess with it and potentially having to buy new components and all that. And by the way, Amiet, the company, was just not helpful at all during that whole process. So I ended up selling it on OfferUp, which I got $500 out of it, which I'm not super happy about. But I've never sold a used e-bike before, and if a new car off the lot loses 50% of its value, then I imagine an e-bike does as well, especially if there's clearly problems with it, which there were. So I got a little bit of money out of it, but I decided instead of going with, one of these moped style bikes, trying to be a motorcycle, I decided to head back to Ridstar, which I had enjoyed my Q20, and it had done really well for me, but it got stolen. But even then, it was super heavy, and because it was trying to be kind of a motorcycle, it really wasn't great for pedaling. So when you did want to get some extra range out of it, or maybe even get a little bit of exercise, the Q20 still wasn't really good for that. So I decided, okay, instead of getting a moped style, let's get something where I can actually pedal, and let's try the 26-inch tires. And so far, I've only put about 20 miles on this thing so far. But what I would say is that it has the same 1500 watt motor of the Q20, and but you're getting more out of it because you've got the 26-inch tires instead of the 20-inch tires. Which, there's trade-offs, of course. You're not getting as torquey of a startup. You have to help a little bit. But because it's set up like an actual bicycle, albeit a very big one, you can actually do that effectively. So that's the fun part, is that, with this thing, I'll be on setting, pedal assist 3, and you're cruising at 25 miles an hour, and I'm pedaling, and I can still actually contribute a little bit. And you can tell that you're really not pulling much away from the battery. And then, honestly, when I've tried to push it up to full speed so far, I've actually gotten up to 35 on a flat, just straightaway. And that's better than I got out of the S6, which was a dual motor. So the tires made a big difference. And also just being in a position where, I'm a 6'2", but I have kind of short legs, but probably longer than most people, I guess. And I need a bit of, distance, to be able to actually deliver power. Whereas on the Q20, you're all scrunched up, and that didn't really help with anything. So overall, I'm really happy with this choice. Now, honestly, it's fucking huge. Sorry to cuss, but it's just a fact. This is the biggest out of the 3 bikes that I've had so far. The tires obviously contribute to that, but it's also the lightest out of the 3 that I've had. The Q20 was 85 pounds with the battery in, something like that. And the S6 was about 97 pounds. It was a hefty boy. Whereas this one is about 70 pounds. Obviously before I put the pannier bags on there. But it's a lighter bike overall, and it is like riding a bicycle. It's not like trying to ride a motorcycle or a shitty slow motorcycle. It's like a really fast bicycle. So you're up high and you can see a little bit better and you can actually pedal effectively. So honestly, granted, this is literally my second day with it. But I think this is going to do a lot better for me than the S6 was. Mainly because this is just more practical. For one, like, you can actually pedal it, and I tried it without the battery, and it's a beast, but you could actually pedal this, whereas you really couldn't pedal a Q20 more than 7 miles an hour or something. So I'm really excited about this, and obviously we'll see over the next couple months. But also, I'm not putting as much strain on it with my commute now as I was back then. So I think I'm going to get more life out of it. And then, I obviously have to think about some stuff. I think the only modifications that I would make to it at this point, other than putting some bags on it, obviously, is I would like to put like an upper bag here. And then inside of it, have another 48 volt, 20 amp hour battery, and have like a switch right around here where maybe, that'll be a reserve battery. Where, okay, because this thing, I think that if I'm pedaling a lot with it, it says that its top distance is maybe 60 miles, but I'm big. I'm about 270, and on top of that, I don't like to go slow. I'm not going to be on pedal assist 1, but I think I can get about 40 miles out of it. So if I could put another 20 amp hour battery on the back, all of a sudden I've got about, 70 or 80 miles. That's enough to get to LA and back. That's enough to get out to Riverside and charge it somewhere, and that's not even considering if I just get, some spare batteries, maybe 2 of them, which that's not going to be cheap, and I can actually carry those on the side. So I think this is going to give me a lot of options. And, I don't think it's as cool looking as the Q20 or the S6 was. But just based off of the ride and, like, actually running around the city with it, it's a superior bike and not much more expensive. Well, it's cheaper than the S6 and it's not much more expensive than the Q20. So if you've looked at this one over time, I would say, this is a solid bike. And honestly, my plan is not to fold it much because, honestly, like, unless I move or I need to transport it, like, in the back of a truck, I'm probably not going to unfold it. There's a port on the side that you can charge it through, and, you just don't want to wear out or put any sort of strain on that latch, because if that messes up, then, the whole other bike, the rest of the bike could be totally useless. The only other thing that I would say is that with the rear suspension, it's the complete opposite problem of any other bike that I've had, where normally I feel like I'm bouncing all over the place. And with this, I think they have over-tightened here, or here, to where, because this arm is supposed to move, right? I'm hefty. This is only a 650-pound spring. I should be bouncing all over the place, right? But it's pretty much a hardtail because I think they've over-torqued this. And I know that if I just try and wail at it with some cheap hand tools, I'm going to mess up that bolt. Because it's not a high-quality bolt. Because this is a Chinese bike. So, I'm not going to mess with it because, honestly, I'd probably rather have a hardtail than a overly bouncy full suspension bike, because I'm heavy like that. But I would like to, take this to a shop, maybe have them replace that hardware, and then from there, maybe put a heavier spring in based off of what my experience is. So that, I would say that's literally the only problem I've had so far with this bike, or anything that has stuck out as, not working right. Everything else is solid. It's a big bike. It's not that heavy for how big it is. And, again, I'm 6'1", 6'2", with kind of shorter legs and a longer torso. And I'm not that high up. You've got a lot more adjustability in that seat. So if you're a really big guy, this is probably the affordable e-bike for you. If you want something that's a little bit more robust than this, but essentially the same form factor in every way, I would say look at the Walkie X3 Max. It almost looks like the same bike, but it's dual motor, so you'll get a little bit more like off-road capability. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. And once I get up to maybe 300 miles, I'll put up another kind of update. But I'm optimistic about this one because I feel like when you are actually actively contributing with the pedals, you're putting less strain on your motor, and you're gonna get more longevity out of it. Whereas I feel like with the moped style bikes, because you're awkwardly situated and you can't actually pedal effectively, then you end up putting a lot more work on that motor, and you get less longevity. So I think that even though again, it's a cheaper bike, but because of the simplicity of it in many ways, and my ability to contribute, I think this is going to be a better choice overall, even if it might not be as sexy as, a scooter that looks like a Harley.